Welcome to the Breakthrough and Bloom podcast. My name is Kelsey Marks, and I am your host and your Breakthrough BFF. I intend to be an open channel to allow insights to flow in that help you break through to the next level of who you were always meant to be. With these conversations, we're going to shift some perspectives, okay? And we're gonna give you a new way to live the life that you live, allowing the opportunity to truly manifest what it is that you desire. So if you're looking to break through to the next level of who you are, to live the life of your dreams, and to gain a deeper understanding of spiritual topics, well, you have come to the right place. And I know we're going to have so much fun together, and I am beyond excited to have these conversations with you. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode here at Breakthrough and Bloom. I am excited to have you back. I'm excited to be here. It is a snowy day here in Massachusetts, and I had a really nice morning this morning. I went outside and I shoveled. I had a nice hot shower. I did yoga. I meditated. I did all of the things, right? Like, lovely morning. And had some lunch, and now here we are, getting ready to have a lovely conversation with you. And I'm not usually one to enjoy snow. In fact, I haven't liked snow in many years, but this morning I woke up and I was just like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And you know, it's probably because no plows have come by and there's no salt on the road. So it's still really fresh and pretty and falling, and it's just really nice, right? And what I love the most about the snow, when it's falling, is the stillness that happens. The silence that you can literally hear. You can hear the silence. You can feel the silence. When you go outside during a snowstorm, it's honestly the most peaceful feeling in the world. And I wish I could bottle that shit up because I love the way it feels. I just hate how fucking cold it's gotta be for it to snow. And if it wasn't for how cold it was, it would be my favorite thing to just sit outside and hear the sound of a snowstorm. And I know maybe some of you don't know what that sounds like, or you're like, how can silence have a sound? But if you have experienced snowstorms, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's silent, but it's not silent, but it is. And it's just it's one of my favorite things. And I think because, I've been doing all of this work with myself, all of this spiritual practices and things, and finding stillness within, I think that's why this year I really appreciate the beauty of the snow. And I feel like I'm connecting so deeply with it, and I'm just honoring it for once, instead of being oh my God, I hate the snow. I hate having to snow blow and then shovel and all of this stuff. But I'm just oh my God, it's so beautiful. I don't know. So that's not what this podcast episode is about, because I'm not turning into a meteorologist, right? We're not talking about snow, but I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it, I guess, a little bit, go on a little tangent, because I just have found this appreciation for something that I used to despise. And I think that's just really beautiful. And I don't know, maybe you're somewhere in your life where you're starting to feel you just don't want to be angry at things that you used to be angry about. And I'm telling you that when you start to just embrace it, oh my God, the beauty that shines through is insane. So, in today's episode, what I wanted to talk about is I'm just feeling kind of called to talk about some misconceptions that maybe you have heard about, maybe you haven't heard about, maybe you've experienced or haven't experienced, but just some misconceptions when it comes to spirituality, or, this whole awakening self-growth journey that we're on. If you're listening to this podcast episode, you're clearly on that journey, right? So on this self-growth, awakening, ascension journey that we're on. And whether or not you're fully in the rabbit hole of spirituality, or you haven't really dived into it yet, or you're kind of afraid to, I think that this is an important conversation to to be having, no matter what level you're at or what amount you practice. And the first misconception I really wanted to talk about was this idea of like love and light and good vibes and, you know, because yes, that's a thing, but like how it's just so overplayed, right? And like how that's what being a spiritual person is. Like, think of like the quote unquote hippies. Like, I don't want to use stereotyping. I really don't. But to get my point across, I'm going to be talking about like the hippie stereotype, you know, the people who live in like these communities together and they're always barefoot and they like maybe rarely bathe, I don't know, or whatever. You know, and sure, that's one way of experiencing reality, of experiencing spirituality, of celebrating life. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, which is why I don't really want to like say hippies, like I'm putting air quotes around it when I say hippies, because like there's nothing wrong with the way that they're living. And I don't like stereotyping people or putting people in boxes and things like that. But for the sake of this conversation, I just want to put that out there because there is that, you know, misconception that I think holds people back from diving into becoming a spiritual person because they're like, I don't want to be like that, right? Like that doesn't vibe with me. That's not something I see for myself. So then they stop doing it altogether or don't even like step into it. And that's why I want to talk about it, because that's just, it's a misconception in my eyes. Like it's one way of experiencing spirituality. Like the people in the flowy clothes and the long hair and the crystal and the jewels all over them, living out in the woods, completely self-sustaining, whatever, have like a million cats and I don't know, like that image. I'm sure what I'm saying, you're like, yes, I've heard of this. So I'm not going to keep putting stereotypes out there. And like, I love that people live like that. I do. And like, keep doing it. And I'm just saying for like others, people who have never like stepped into the spiritual world, who are unfamiliar to what it means to be a spiritual being having a human experience, I think it may be a little jarring at first because you're like, well, this interests me, but like, that's the end. And like, that doesn't jive with me, at least right now. Right. And like, it's so far removed from where they're at. They're like, I'm just not even going to like start spirituality because if that's what you become, I'm not into it. And you know, that way of living, it's not a very 3D way of living life. It's very opposite from common society. So like for someone who's in the 3D matrix like that and wants to get out and then sees that it might be really jarring. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. Because that's just like, it's a percentage of people who practice spirituality who have gone down that route. It's a percentage. It's honestly not, I don't even think it's a large percentage. I think personally, the vast majority of people on earth who do practice spirituality, they don't practice it in that way. And, you know, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this imagery of this spiritual person, I think it's a bit flawed and I don't really like it because I think it's like pigeonholing people. It's putting spirituality into a box that it should not be in, right? Because a lot of people who practice spirituality, dare even say the vast majority of people who do, they don't live that kind of lifestyle. Like my dad jokingly says to me, my mom, my sister, my brother, that we're all quote unquote hippies or quote unquote gypsies, right? Like as a joke, but because of that imagery of someone who is like into spirituality, into herbalisms, the cycles of the stars and the moons and your own body and the planets. And like, I don't think most people who actively practice spirituality are actually like that. It's just like this story that's been pushed out by mainstream media to keep people from wanting to do it. And to me, it pushed me into wanting to do it because I like love that kind of shit. So I was like, oh, that's like for me. But I know a lot of people, because I experience it in my own family, are like, that's absurd. And it's their belief, right? But I think having that like stereotype, I think it's not fair to what spirituality is because it is so much more than that. And I know a lot of people in the spiritual world who practice all of these things that I talk about. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't come across one of these stereotypical hippies. ever. Like, I've met people with aspects of them, right? Because there's certain things about it that we love, but like the full-blown stereotype, I have not ran into one. And I know a lot of people who practice spirituality. Like, just think about it. Some of the biggest names in spirituality, like Deepak Chopra, Dolores Cannon, Eckhart Tolle, even Jay Shetty, like all of these people, none of them are living in these like off-grid communities, even though like Jay Shetty was a monk. That's a little bit different. But like these big names were living in relatively normal lives, right? Like Deepak was a doctor, and Dolores Cannon was like a journalist, basically. I don't know what Eckhart Tolle did before, but Jay Shetty was like in college, like, you know what I mean? Like these big names in spirituality that a lot of people love their work for aren't living that like quote unquote hippie lifestyle. And I'm just saying all of this because I don't want spirituality to have this stereotype to it. Like the gone off the deep end type vibes, because it's not that at all. In fact, spirituality, I think, is fucking normal. It's embracing more of who you are internally. Like, I know plenty of people who work full-time jobs and practice spirituality, that do this inner work, and they do the self-care practices and take time for themselves. I know plenty of people who live in like massive cities like LA and New York City that practice this shit. Like, they're not in the middle of the woods. And most people aren't like flaunting around like, oh, I'm this spiritual person, right? And those are most of the people that I meet, right? Like, you're just having a conversation with someone, and it's like a normal everyday convo, and then all of a sudden one person, either like me or them or someone else, just says something kind of about spirituality or manifesting or energy work or whatever, and then we're like, wait, you're into it? And then you like dive into it together, right? And like, I think spirituality is so natural for us. Like, it's our natural way of being, because we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not a human who's learning spirituality. Like, it doesn't mean you have to change your entire lifestyle either, because all that spirituality is like going internally and bringing who you are out, right? You don't have to change your entire lifestyle to like live in communities like that or whatever. Like, you don't have to. You can have your corporate jobs, you can have your families, you can have your kids, your busy lives, and still be spiritual. You can still practice spirituality with all of these other things that you've grown to know and love and appreciate. Whether you want to keep them or not is another question. But you can have all of those things and still be spiritual, because spirituality in reality is just connecting to who you are on the inside. That's all it really is. It's the practice of taking time to clear out the stories, the limiting beliefs, the fears, and allowing your authentic self to shine through. Honestly, that's what it's all about. And however that looks for you is absolutely perfect, because it's you that you're bringing out, and no one else can tell you what that looks like. And I just want to make it known that, like, stepping into the world of spirituality, it doesn't mean like there's only one way to end up. There's only one way you're going to be. Maybe you will be that way. I don't know. Who knows? But like, there's such a wide and vast way of experiencing spirituality, of experiencing being a spiritual being in a human form, that there's like nothing to fear about what you'll become or what it'll make you. It's not going to make you anything that you aren't already are. In fact, spirituality is going to free you from the shackles of this 3D reality and allow you to fully embrace your gifts, who you are, why you're here, and allow you to like just authentically connect with others on such a deep level. You don't have to change your lifestyle to start practicing spirituality. That's not how it works. There's no requirements for it, right? Like, you don't have to change everything about you to be like, oh, well, I practice spirituality. Because practicing spirituality doesn't require you to change who you are, but practicing spirituality does change who you are, just not in like that way. So practicing spirituality, it changes the way in which you view yourself, the way in which you view the world, your relationships, your emotions, your past, your thoughts. It changes the way in which you perceive your reality. It's like unlocking a door, and what's behind it is just you. Whatever you want, whatever lights you up, whatever being authentically you means and what it feels like. Practicing spirituality changes your relationship with yourself, with your body. It increases compassion, patience, self-love, acceptance. It allows you to just surrender and to flow. And that's what I want you to think of when you think of spirituality. I want you to think that spirituality is just a practice of authenticity. I don't want this image of a person that you may or may not like vibe with at this point in your life. Like, instead, spirituality is just a practice of authenticity. And the other misconception I wanted to talk about too, that kind of goes along with this, is the idea that when you practice spirituality, it's like all love and light only, all peace, and like you kind of become a doormat and let people push you around because, you know, you're practicing all of this like acceptance and peace and non-confrontational stuff or whatever. And like, that is not, that is not the case. And I talked about this a little bit before in one of my earlier podcast episodes about toxic positivity, which if you haven't listened to it, go ahead and listen to it because I'll go more into depth there. But I'm talking about it a little bit differently today than I did in that episode. So yes, like I said before, practicing spirituality, it does make you more accepting. It does make you more patient, more kind, more compassionate. You find yourself being less argumentative, less abrasive, less combative. But practicing spirituality does not make you a pushover. It does not mean you don't care what others are doing. It's just that you only concern yourself when it affects you. There isn't any like butting into situations that have nothing to do with you. There's no like fights for the sake of fighting. There's no trying to fix other people's issues for them if they're not like asking for help. But being a spiritual person, someone who practices self-love, compassion, patience, it means that you set some serious fucking boundaries to protect your peace, your patience, your compassion, you know, the essence of you. You create a safe space around you in your environment for your authentic nature to thrive. Because remember, spirituality is just the practice of authenticity. So if you're practicing it, you got to be in a safe space to do it, right? And that means setting boundaries. That means telling others no, telling others fuck no sometimes, telling others what they're doing is unacceptable for you, telling others, you know, that's not fucking happening, okay? Telling others that, like, we're not continuing this relationship, this partnership, this job, whatever, because it's doing X, Y, and Z. In fact, as someone who used to be a chronic people pleaser, me over here, okay, practicing spirituality is the sole single reason why I'm able to say no to others now. It is the reason why I say yes to myself. It is the sole reason why I know what a fucking boundary is in the first place. I didn't know what a boundary was prior to any of this stuff that I was doing. And now I know how to set it, how to receive it, how to uphold it, how to listen to other people's boundaries when they set it as well and accept it and learn, you know, whether that works for me as well. Practicing spirituality, it also taught me that others' reactions are not a reflection of me, but of them. Oh my God, I almost just choked on my spit. Whew, that was a close one. Okay. What was I saying? Spirituality taught me how to feel for others who are hurting instead of taking on that pain. Because I used to do that shit all the time. Like, I would try to heal other people's pain by taking it on, but that was just not good. So it taught me how to just feel for them and not take it on for them, and allowing others to experience their emotions and to heal themselves and not feeling like it's my job to do it. It showed me how to hold space, how to allow others to let their ego like run wild, whatever, while they're unaware of it, right? And not like try to control that or to like wake them up like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, I'm holding space for people now to experience however they want to experience life. Spirituality it showed me what is worth my time and my energy and what isn't. And it taught me how to stand the fuck up for myself, honestly. It taught me my inherent value. It taught me what it means to be confident. It taught me what it means to be authentic. It taught me who I am. And spirituality, it's knowing when to put your energy into something versus when not to. It's knowing what is worth your time and energy and what isn't. It's knowing what's helping you versus hurting you. And it's knowing how to keep yourself safe and aligned and going in the direction that you want to go in, and not like taking on or latching onto other stories that they're playing in their life that they're going through. And instead, like listening to your own inner story, your own inner guidance, and following that path. And sometimes that means you have to say no, and sometimes you got to say fuck you too. Like sometimes it just like means you have to stand up for yourself. But the big thing that spirituality also teaches you, because of boundaries, right? But it teaches you that the delivery of how you set a boundary, of how you say no, of how you tell someone else like that's unacceptable, the delivery is what's important. It's learning to hold a boundary without attacking someone for it. It's stating like what you're doing and why it's important for you, and why you're doing it to make yourself feel safe. And it's not making it about someone else. Like, you did this to me, so this is happening. It's more like, I'm feeling like this, so I'm doing this to feel this way, right? Like, it's totally different versus attacking versus protecting. Totally different. And it doesn't mean that you never like say no to others. It doesn't mean that you become like a fucking doormat when you practice spirituality. Like, that's not it at all. You learn more of how to stand up for yourself in a peaceful manner. So that might come off as kind of like non-confrontational, right? Because you're not being confrontational. So obviously it's going to come off that way, but it doesn't mean that like you avoid conflict. It just means that you navigate conflict with more awareness, right? And Jordan used to joke with me when I started doing this work like a couple years ago, because he saw how I was changing. And I used to have like anger issues, I used to have anxiety, I used to get like really fucking flustered and pissed off like so easily. And when I started doing this work, it just wasn't happening anymore, because anytime I got triggered, I immediately started getting curious and asking questions as to why, because like I was learning about shadow work and I was just like, this is so cool. I love asking myself questions. Which in doing that, when you start asking why you're getting triggered, it stops that trigger from taking over, right? It stops that emotion from like being a tidal wave that just takes everything over. Instead, you kind of like break it and it doesn't have that power over you. So like I wasn't having outbursts. I wasn't having reactions. I was pretty calm. Like I would get triggered and it would look like I would shut down, but it was really that I was just like internalizing for a minute, like figuring out how I wanted to respond as opposed to like reacting, right? And he used to joke with me, like trying to push my buttons. He hasn't done this in a very long time, but he used to say that, like push my buttons and say like, break character, like to try to get me angry. Not like really trying to get me angry, but like annoyed. I hope I'm like saying this correctly. He wasn't trying to purposely piss me off, but he was like joking around of like basically saying like, you never like get bothered by anything anymore. And it's true, I wasn't. And it wasn't an act. It wasn't like me ignoring the fact that I was getting upset about things. I was just handling it differently. And now like I really don't get triggered very often. And if I do, it's extremely subtle in comparison. And it's more of like an annoyance than like a big anger type thing. But like spirituality has taught me that. Spirituality has taught me how to handle my own triggers and how to respond to them instead of reacting from them. And like, that's spirituality to me. It's learning to calm your inner world, which does make you appear more peaceful, more accepting, more accommodating to others, because you fucking are. It's just that you don't fight against things that have nothing to do with you anymore. When you become aware of how much pain you had inside before and how it made you react, you just simply see that hurt, that similar pain being played out around you through others. And you don't get upset by it anymore because you know that response, that reaction, that pain is not yours. It's not you. It's not even a reflection of you. And that's why people who practice spirituality seem so unbothered. It's because they are, okay? They know how to set a fucking boundary, and that's why they're unbothered. Why do you think they got unbothered in the first place? It's because they were setting boundaries and that they went inside and looked within and got friendly with their pain, and they could see what it was causing them to do, and they can see that in others, and that allows for you to be compassionate. And how can you be angry when you're compassionate with someone, right? So for anyone who is out there who is interested in spirituality but hasn't started because of maybe some of these preconceived notions that I've talked about, or other ones that you've heard, of like what it means to be someone who practices spirituality, I hope that this episode finds you and helps you realize that spirituality is fucking normal, okay? It's normal to do it, it's normal to practice it, and it's not going to turn you into something or someone that you don't want to be. It's going to turn you into yourself. It's going to allow your authenticity to shine. It's going to allow the best parts of you to come forward. And from experience, practicing spirituality is the best thing that I ever did for myself. It's the best thing I ever did. I found true freedom. I found true freedom within myself, which has manifested in my life. And it has allowed me to love myself and to love my life and embrace my fears and face them head on, sometimes slowly, but I'm still facing them, right? And it taught me to follow my heart and to push myself to complete my goals. Like, it's just the most beautiful thing that has happened in my life. And practicing spirituality has made my relationships so much deeper and so much more meaningful. It has made me a better wife, a better friend, a better sister, a better coach, a better mentor. It's made me who I am today. And it's allowed my inner me to shine through. And I want this for you too. And I intend to create a space where this can be created for you, because you deserve all of the happiness in the world. You deserve all of the happiness that I feel on a daily basis. You are worthy of experiencing the gratitude that I have within my heart for my life. You deserve to feel the way that I feel. And I've been in your shoes before, because I've been at the bottom. I've been at the bottom, and I know what that feels like, and I know what this feels like, and this is way fucking better. And sure, some people might think I'm a little woo, a little crazy, whatever, but I wouldn't trade it for the fucking world. Go ahead and call me crazy. But I'm living an amazing life that I'm so fucking grateful for, and I just know is getting better and better with every day. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. You can call me whatever the fuck you want. It doesn't matter, because I love my life, and my life is so good. And I intend to create a space where others can learn to feel this as well. Because you deserve it. You deserve to feel this way. And if you want to start diving into actually practicing spirituality, what that looks like, what that feels like, how to actually do it in your busy life, there's no better place than right here. Okay, at Breakthrough and Bloom, with your girl, with me. I have a ton of freebies that I've made that are on my website at breakthroughandbloom.com, like meditations, affirmation phone backgrounds, workbooks, and they're all free. So go ahead and grab them. Or go ahead and follow me on Instagram as well at Breakthrough and Bloom, because I am starting to put more content out there again of things that are very similar to this podcast, but obviously much shorter, because reels are only 90 seconds long and these podcasts are usually 30 minutes long. So I'm on there as well to help you start practicing or, having some perspective shifts and dipping your toe into the world of spirituality. And if you're really ready to start your practice too, to like really start diving into it, and you're committed to yourself and you're ready to live a different life, a better life, a life that fulfills you, one that you love, go ahead and send me a message, DM me on Instagram. You can email me on my website or just breakthroughandbloom@gmail.com. And like, let's work together. And let's get you living a life that you are excited to live, that you have always deserved to live. One that just like fills your heart up and your soul can shine authentically. And in case no one has told you this today, I am so incredibly proud of you. You're doing amazing, sweetie. And I love you. I love you. I love you. And I'll catch you in the next one.